Who's the baddest shark around? Who's the smartest shark in town? Sky-Byte, that's me.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. For today's video, we're going to be checking out the Transformers Age of the Primes Voyager class Sky-Byte. Based on the original Robots in Disguise TV show, this is an update that has been a long time coming, especially after he single-handedly won the fan vote back in 2023 for being arguably the best character on the show. Now, the previous Thrilling 30 Sky-Byte, whilst definitely good for its time, really was just an interpretation of his design. By today's standards, stacked up against some of the more recent updates, it really does unfortunately fall kinda short. But 11 years on, he's back, and despite the original 2001 release still causing for some tough competition, I've gotta say that I think this may just be the best one yet. As we whack up an image of how he did appear on the show, visually he is incredibly close, which is honestly kinda surprising, as with the exception of the HasLab Optimus Prime, all of the other updates based on the show have unfortunately just been repaints and retools. But detail-wise, Sky-Byte looks exactly how he appeared on screen. The head sculpt and entire upper torso are super close, even down to the asymmetrical chest plate. That, unlike the previous version, does continue throughout the entire design. Not to mention that this guy is big. Do you know, it honestly wouldn't surprise me if the main reason why they did decide to almost completely blow their budget on Sky-Byte is so that in the future they can repaint him into a Transmetals 2 Cybershark. And as we spin him around to the back, he is again looking to be pretty close to his animation model, even down to the return of his shark ass. You could even smack off the fins on his backpack to create for an even cleaner look, although if I'm not mistaken, I do believe that even these are accurate to his design. So definitely a great update, and if issues do unfortunately persist with Omega Prime, who knows? This may end up being as the one to be when it comes to all of the updates based on the Robots in Disguise TV show. Flying through Sky-Byte's accessories, as mentioned previously, he includes two pretty decently detailed side fins, which are surprisingly even on their own sprue when you crack this guy open. I guess you could either take that as being a neat throwback to how some of the original G1 toys were packaged, or that Hasbro's cheap ass are just once again cutting corners. Either way, in addition to being stored on his back, these can also be used as a full-blown crossbow weapon. He also includes one missile pod, which as you would expect by today's standards, unfortunately doesn't have any actual projectiles, unlike the original, but can be stored inside the shark's head as some pretty nifty weapon storage when in both robot and beast mode. Then finally, whilst not technically an accessory, we've got to quickly talk about how awesome his main form of weaponry is, that being his biomechanical claw arm. Although I will say that this does now lack the spinning gimmick of the Thrilling 30s version, which I do think would have been something pretty cool to see return. Diving into this guy's articulation, without doubt, this will be the area where he single-handedly obliterates his previous releases. So firstly, the head is on a ball joint. This can look up, down, and can rotate left to right. The shoulder pads are also fully articulated, so in addition to hinging up and down, these can also rotate, although I do worry about the longevity of that pin joint. But for the time being, these can kick forwards, backwards, as well as out to the side, for the most part completely uncompromised. The biceps can spin, with the elbows being able to bend to 90, and to my surprise, in addition to him packing a wrist joint, there is also a wrist hinge, mainly due to transformation, but that is pretty awesome. And the claw arm is also super articulated, because in addition to being able to spin, the pincers can also open and close. Despite the shark ass, the waist has no issues in spinning all the way around. The hips can kick forwards, backwards, as well as completely out to the side. The thighs can spin, with the knees being able to bend past 90. Then finally, due to transformation, the front part of the foot can hinge downwards and can also rock inwards. But to really see what bite this guy's packing, let's now put him through the post test. Firing through some robot mode comparisons, up first is the 2014 Thrilling 30s version of Sky-Byte, and I think I can safely say that the brand new Age of the Primes version is an upgrade in about almost every single way. For a general size comparison, here is the Studio Series 86 Optimus Prime, and for only being a Voyager, Sky-Byte is actually pretty decently sized. Here is how he stacks up against fellow rival and nemesis Scourge, the Lux Class Legacy Sideburn, and whilst I think the scaling between these two is pretty spot on, surely I can't be the only one thinking that the HasLab Optimus Prime is just going to be way out of scale stacked up against these two. Then finally, the 86 Mophie Bumblebee. Plunging into Sky-Byte's transformation, as someone who grew up struggling and still struggles to transform the thrilling 30s version, I was pleasantly surprised with how straightforward yet still involved this guy is. So first up, take these components and snap these inwards towards the blue fin. You'll then take the fist and hinge this inwards, as we are now going to take the bicep on the opposite side and rotate this so that the big gaping hole is now facing forwards, with the only difference being for the second side that you are going to want to rotate in an opposite direction. You'll then take the shoulder pads, hinge these upwards and proceed to spin them around, although I've got to be honest guys and say that these can become a pain in the butt. With that complete, we can now spin around to the back, take these panels and hinge these here outwards, as we are now going to take the entire backpack and first of all hinge this entire section upwards, as you'll now take his head and hinge this downwards. You'll then take the shoulder, disconnect it away from the torso and hinge this all the way up. You'll then be sure to make use out of this slider joint and push this backwards. We can then take the second side and do pretty much exactly the same, with the only difference being that instead of sliding backwards, you are now going to want to slide forwards at this pin joint and then proceed to hinge this here all the way up. You'll then take both arms and combine them directly down the middle. With that complete, we can now take a hold of the backpack, completely straighten it out and then be sure to take a hold of the head and slide this all the way down. You'll then make notes out of the tabs and slots on the inside of the shoulders, as these are going to connect with the slots and the tab on the side of the torso. So hinge these panels up until they do snap into place, and again be sure to do the same for the second side. Now you want to spin up to the top side, take both halves and combine these here directly down the middle. We can now take the front part of the foot and slide this downwards, with again the same applying for the second side. And for the next step, the entire back part of the leg is going to slide backwards and will snap into place. With that complete, we can now take a hold of the shin, disconnect it away from the knee and slide this all the way down until it does lock into place. Once you've done the same for the second side, we can now take both halves and combine these here directly down the middle. We can now take a hold of the sides of the shark and spin these here all the way around. Once you've reached to this point, we can now compress them inwards. Then finally, you can take a hold of the head of the shark, slide this forwards until it does snap into the lower jaw. And that right there, guys, is the transformation now fully complete. Here is Sky-Byte now fully transformed into his biomechanical shark mode, and as we again whack up an image of how he did appear on screen, not only is he looking to be super close to his animation model, but it's also a huge improvement in comparison to the look of the thrilling 30s version. And I am so glad that they did decide to go with the proportions of a slightly more traditional looking shark than as opposed to giving him the curve that we did see previously. The mechanical sculpting is also incredibly detailed, and much like his robot mode, the armor plating is completely asymmetrical, with the mix between gunmetal and silver looking sick. Both rows of teeth are also fully painted, and the missile pod can even be attached into the inside of the mouth to give Sky-Byte his much needed shark missiles.
Shark missile!
But easily, one of the biggest improvements compared to I think pretty much any version that came before would be his articulation. Despite the fact that he does transform into a shark, much like on the show, that hasn't stopped him in still being pretty expressive. So firstly, the jaw is packing a ferocious bite. The entire head can hinge downwards to expose some really nice mechanical detail. These side fins can rotate, and the tail is actually pretty awesome because despite being formed out of the elbows of the robot mode, this has no issues in hinging side to side, allowing Sky-Byte the ability to smack his enemies on the battlefield. So again, a really nicely done beast mode for Sky-Byte. This entire figure just in general is shaping up to be one of the strongest entries to so far come from Age of the Primes, and that's saying something, because the entire line so far has been solid. Swimming our way through some beast mode comparisons, up first is again the thrilling 30 Sky-Byte. And who do you guys think done it best? The Studio Series 86 Optimus Prime Scourge. The Lux Sideburn now fully transformed into his Dodger licensed vehicle mode. Then finally the 86 Mophie Bumblebee. So, wrapping up on this review for the Transformers Age of the Prime Sky-Byte. In all, the figure is yet another fantastic entry into the line. As mentioned previously, he was arguably one of the best characters on the show, and I think that's reflective of this release. Sky-Byte in both robot and shark mode is super cartoon accurate, with his beast mode being by far the standout. The sculpted mechanical detailing throughout looks sick, and dare I say results in arguably his best looking mainline release to date. But I would love to know what you guys think of Sky-Byte. Be sure to sound off below and let me me know. As always, I thank you all so much for watching, and until my next video, I'll see you then. Transform and roll out!